peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us. It is 3 p.m. here in Nairobi, a very lovely afternoon. The sun is out there, and it is such a warm afternoon compared to early in the morning where it was a bit chilly. I hope all is well with you wherever you're watching us from. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Good morning, depending on which part of the world you are tuned in. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where we get to look at the news-making headlines across the continent. My name is Miriam Magutu, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us. Today, I'll start with Mali. And the International Organization of Francophone has suspended Mali from its membership, the latest body to take action against last week's overthrow of Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta's government by the military. The decision by the body that represents countries where people speak French, comes days after the regional bloc, the ECOWAS, which also suspended Mali from its membership, held unsuccessful talks with the military junta over a return to democratic rule. The coup leaders have said they were not interested in holding power and would hold fresh elections within a reasonable time. A demand by African heads of state to reinstate former President Keïta is now off the table after he withdrew interest to return as a leader. And still staying with Mali, and West African mediators say the leaders of last week's coup in Mali want to stay in power for a 3-year transition period, but the ECOWAS team say they told the coup members that an interim government headed by a civilian or retired military officer should last for a year at most. The mediation team was led by former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan. It is not clear if the issue of sanctions and suspensions will have any impact on the coup leaders, who initially said they were not interested in power. And then we head over to Ethiopia, where Ethiopian Foreign Minister Redwan Hussein has held talks with the UK embassy's charge at affairs after chaos broke out during protests held outside Ethiopia's embassy in London. Mr. Redwan expressed a disappointment over security of the embassy. Ethnic Oromos, Ethiopia's largest ethnic group, had been holding protests outside the embassy since last week to condemn what they term as violation of rights and arrest of opposition leaders in Ethiopia. Now, the protests have led to the closure of the embassy. A statement that the embassy said one of its staff members were assaulted by the protesters. The UK diplomat apologized for the incident and assured that measures will be taken to ensure the safety and security of the embassy, according to a ministry statement. And then we come back to East Africa. This time we go to Tanzania, where a campaigning began in Tanzania on Wednesday ahead of general election due at the end of October. President John Magufuli, who is seeking re-election, faces 14 challengers. The ruling CCM party has dominated Tanzania's politics for decades. A united opposition during the last election gave the party the strongest challenge yet. But the crowded race this time could give the president greater advantage. Mr. Magufuli was widely praised as a reformist when he took office 5 years ago, but has since been accused of stifling dissent. And then we head to the Ivory Coast, where Ivory Coast former President Laurent Gbagbo has been barred from running for the presidency in upcoming elections after a court upheld the Electoral Commission's decision to remove him from the electoral list. His lawyer, Claude Menton, told the AFP news agency that there was no further legal recourse inside Ivory Coast. The country's Electoral Commission struck him off the list of candidates because he was convicted of a crime. The president of the Electoral Commission, Ibrahim Coulibaly Quibert, had in August said that anybody convicted of a crime would not be allowed to stand. He made the announcement while revealing the revised electoral list. Now, 4 candidates, including former rebel leader Guillermo Soro, was also removed from the list. Mr. Gbagbo was sentenced in absentia in 2019 for the looting of the Central Bank of West African states following a disputed 2010 election that resulted into violence. And still staying with the Ivory Coast and French, President Emmanuel Macron has been urged to intervene on Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara's bid for a third term in October's election, which his opponents say is unconstitutional. Former Ivory Coast leader Julian Moussoro has told President Macron in a letter that Ivorians have noticed France's deafening silence on the matter. He said France had hailed Mr. Ouattara's initial announcement that he would not seek a re-election, but had been quiet after the president accepted his party's nomination for a third term. Mr. Soro and former President Laurent Gbagbo have been barred from vying because of their previous convictions. And still staying with Ivory Coast, a lot of things seems to be happening there in Ivory Coast, and I don't know if you're looking at another chaos that perhaps is about to happen in that country. And supporters of the former president of Ivory Coast, Laurent Gbagbo, say they will fight his candidacy. They will file for his candidacy for October's election, even though a court has ruled he is not eligible to stand due to a previous conviction. The country descended into civil war after the 2010 election, when Mr. Gbagbo refused to step down and hand over to the victor Alassane Ouattara, who is the current president. Last year, he was acquitted by the International Criminal Court of Crimes Against Humanity and currently lives in Belgium. Pending a possible appeal for the prosecution, he was sentenced in absentia by the Ivorian court to a 20-year term for looting a regional bank during the 2010 post-election crisis. And then we head over to the DRC, and authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo say the world's largest measles outbreak that killed more than 7,000 children has now ended. Efforts to stop its spread were hampered by under-resourced health system as well as conflict. Health experts say the actual number of deaths from measles could not be higher, as many cases go unreported. At a press conference in the capital Kinshasa, Health Minister Eteni Longondo said measles no longer existed in the country. The cases could be higher. All right. And we head back to Mozambique, and the U.S. oil giant ExxonMobil says it is giving aid worth $50,000 to help families displaced by the militant Islamic insurgency in Mozambique's gas-rich northern province of Cabo Delgado. The company will work with non-governmental organizations, Macobo, and local authorities to build 2 satellite kitchens that will cook 20,000 meals a day. It says in a statement, about 1,000 people have been killed and 300,000 left homeless since the insurgency began in 2017. ExxonMobil is a major investor in the development of natural gas projects worth $60 billion off the coast of Cabo Delgado. About 2 weeks ago, the government said its troops had regained control of the key port of Mociboa de Pereira, following multiple reports that it had fallen to the militants known locally as Al-Shabaab. And then we go to South Africa, where a well-known South African conservationist has died after he was mauled by 2 white lions as he was taking them for a walk. Hold on. You're taking lions for a walk? These white people. Now, the wife of the West, Matthew's son, who followed in a car, at least she was smart. She stayed in the car and followed the husband while he was taking these lions for a walk. He's not laughing matter, but seriously. Tried to distract the lions, but it was too late. He ran a popular safari lodge, Lion Treetop Lodge in Limpopo province. The lioness have since been moved to another game lodge and are expected to be released into the wild at a later stage. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around somebody thinking it's a good idea to take a lion for a walk. Not a dog, not a cat, a lion for a walk. All right. And then we go back to Tanzania, where Tanzania has banned 3 more Kenyan airlines as a standoff between the East African neighbors over COVID-19 escalates. The Tanzanian Civil Aviation Authority nullified the approval granted to Flight 540, Air Kenya Express, and Safari Link Aviation. The airlines operate daily flights to the tourist destinations of Kilimanjaro and Zanzibar. Earlier, the national carrier Kenya Airways had been banned after Nairobi said passengers from Tanzania have to quarantine for 14 days when they arrive in the country. President John Magufuli declared Tanzania free of coronavirus in June now. The Tanzanian Civil Aviation Authority Director General Hamza Johari is quoted as saying that the basis of the decision to nullify our approval for the 3 Kenyan airlines is the ongoing dispute between the 2 countries. I don't know. Tanzania. President Magufuli there, he's just pushing it too much. Every country has its own regulations right now. And if you believe there's no COVID-19 in Tanzania, well, here we have it and we're dealing with it. And so I think that shouldn't be a problem. If you believe you don't have COVID-19, we have COVID-19, Uganda has COVID-19, and the rest of the countries in Africa and a few others who have been able to heal completely, but they recorded also COVID-19. So if we still feel we have to protect ourselves, and everybody who's coming in the country has to be quarantined for at least 14 days, then why do you think Tanzania should be an exception? So the laws that work in Tanzania, you should not be pushing, that on Kenya, because I think that if a Kenyan flight comes into Tanzania and you don't find a need to quarantine the Kenyans or anybody in that flight when they arrive in Tanzania, that's well and good. But here, every flight that comes from outside the country has to be, the passengers there must quarantine. And that is just a basic standard procedure, not just for Tanzanians, but for every other person that comes into the country or and that is happening across many other countries across the world as we are trying to contain the spread of COVID-19. So I think for Tanzania, it's just a personal thing that especially President Magufuli has. I think against Kenya, I don't understand. But hopefully that will be resolved very, very soon, because I think it's very unnecessary and uncalled for on the part of Tanzania. President Magufuli, please. All right, and then we head to Togo, where 16 members of the Togo's opposition have been freed after being jailed for rebellion. AFP news agency quotes an opposition leader saying the 16 were sentenced on 21st of April to a year in prison, together with a suspended term of 8 months. They were released on Tuesday. Falbert Atiso, a senior official of the Patriotic Movement for Democracy and Development, is quoted by AFP as saying, and Togo's President Faure Gnassingbe won a re-election in February. The opposition alleged the vote was rigged. Constitutional changes were approved last year, allowing him to seek re-election and potentially stay in office until 2013, an issue which sparked huge protests in 2017 and also 2018. This constitutional coup by our African leaders sometimes is what plunges a lot of countries in problems, and we were just looking at that, earlier on our morning show. And of course, Kenya right now, I think we're gearing up for a referendum. A few key articles in our constitution perhaps stand a chance to be changed, and because of how they are enshrined in our constitution, we can only change them by a way of referendum. If people of Kenya vote to change them, and then that will be it. If not, then it will remain. So it's quite interesting. But for us, I think we have to participate. So you see, especially these leaders who change, the constitution so that it allows them another term, like what you're seeing now happening there in Ivory Coast, President Alassane Ouattara insisting on going for a 3rd term. That is against the constitution, and he forgets how he came to power, and it was very chaotic there after he won, and the former president was not willing to step down. And then you wonder, did you not learn anything? Bagbo went to ICC, and now you're setting Ivory Coast into another chaos, and we shall look at that. Let me just finish up with the last piece, not really the last, but some news from Biafra particularly. And the Southeast group under the name Alaigbo Development Foundation on Wednesday petitioned international communities to wade into the gruesome murder of 21 members of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. The leadership of the group, in a statement signed by its president, Mr. Abia Onyike, said tasked President Muhammadu Buhari to immediately remove the ban on IPOB activities. And in that statement, read in part, ADF unequivocally condemns the brutal massacre of over 21 Igbo youths in this latest phase of the Igbo genocide, the longest and most continuous and unresolved genocide in the political history of the African continent. The first phase of the Igbo genocide was from 1966 to 1970 and was used to inaugurate Africa's age of pestilence as the first post-colonial genocide in the continent, and then it continues there. And then part of it also says ADF notes the ominous dimension whereby the only 2 Igbo personnel on the DSS side were the only casualties of the shooting. Remember, 2 police on the side of the law enforcement, only 2 of them died. So now, according to the information that has been making rounds, is that these 2 police officers who were killed were also Igbo. So there has been, a theory going around, and maybe you'll tell me if this is true or not, that even these 2 police officers perhaps were targeted by their own colleagues, because these 2 police officers were Igbo and perhaps were trying to stop the police from, the extrajudicial killings that happened there. You let me know. So now, they continue to say the security personnel were mainly Hausa Fulani and the only victims were the Igbo elements in the security contingent. The emerging theory that they were gunned down by their colleagues for purposes of covering up the cold-blooded atrocity which they may have vehemently opposed should not be discounted. Oh wow, those are very grave, matters that are being raised by this group, Alaigbo Development Foundation. I don't know if you're familiar with this group, but and also. But very well, while we're still looking at that, now the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, has condoled with families of members killed during Sunday's clash with security operatives in Imene, Enugu State. I have to say that right. Insisting that the ugly incident would not dampen the struggle for restoration of Biafra. In a statement he personally signed and made available to the Guardian in Enugu, Kanu said the burden of restoring Biafra was a Herculean task that crystallizes in the constant danger of being killed by federal government-controlled security forces. Kanu said that the security forces had successfully cowed elected and non-elected leaders, but urged the members of to remain resolute and focused until the struggle was won. All right, and then we go to Cameroon, and the national chairman of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party, Professor Maurice Kamto, has warned that he will launch a gigantic campaign to call for the outright departure of the head of state, Paul Biya, from power if the latter convenes the electorate for the upcoming regional elections without resolving the 4 years long Anglophone crisis and amending the electoral system. Speaking at a press conference on Monday in Yaoundé, Professor Kamto said the current happenings in the country, including renewed attacks from Boko Haram in the Far North region, murder of women and their babies, Ngabu massacre, barbaric killings in the Anglophone regions with no adequate response from the state are enough proofs that Cameroon's ship sails through without a captain. He has thus advanced 2 prerequisites for the head of state to convene the electorate for the upcoming regional elections: the resolution of the Anglophone crisis by the establishment of a ceasefire and a consensual reform of the current electoral system, both of which would ensure the holding of safe and free elections. And I don't know if Paul Biya is even paid any attention to any of the things that Maurice Kamto said there. Maurice Kamto is the official opposition leader in Cameroon, and we know what happened during the elections in 2018. They protested over what they termed as, grave malpractice that took place during those elections that saw President Paul Biya win another 7-year term. One term in Cameroon is 7 years. I think they changed that a couple of years ago. They had to repeal the constitution. The constitutional code that I was talking about, where our leaders keep mutilating and changing the constitution to fit, the current political status quo. And at the end, they find that, it's not working very well for the people in that country. So President Paul Biya, of course, is the second, longest serving president here in the continent. I think, is it 37 or 38 years now, since 1982. So I would say it's about 38 years President Paul Biya has been in power. The first one is the president of Guinea, what do you call it, Equatorial Guinea, who has been in power there for 41 years. So President Paul Biya has no, interest of leaving. I think he's waiting to die in that seat, as I think the former president of Zimbabwe, now late Robert Mugabe, decided he'll stay put, and only God will get him out of power, and then shock on him. And one day, the army that he had used to protect himself with for all those years are the ones who catapulted his removal from office. So President Biya there, the leader of opposition, Professor Maurice Kamto, coming out and saying, President Paul Biya has to, address certain issues that are important to Cameroon and also to the people from the Anglophone region, and that is to find a lasting solution to what is happening there. We saw President Biya trying to convene an international dialogue. What was it called? A national dialogue last year. That was quite shambolic. And to be honest with you, because you cannot have what President Paul Biya essentially did is, prepare for a national dialogue between him and his, and his people, because the people who they were supposed to be dialoguing with, the people whom the government of Cameroon is having a problem with, which is the Anglophone, the leaders were not present to really come out and speak on behalf of the people that they represent, on behalf of the voices, that they represent, because these people were handed over life sentences and now serving life sentences there in the Cameroon, jails, there. So it was quite interesting, and that national dialogue was really shambolic. Had no effect at all, because nothing really much has changed since that happened nearly a year now. Come next month. I think it happened towards the end of September last year. So nothing much has changed. So now Professor Maurice Kamto is coming out and saying, if President Paul Biya thinks about convening an electorate, for the upcoming regional elections, without resolving the 4-year-long Anglophone crisis and amending the electoral system, then President Paul Biya is in for a very rude shock, and is saying that if he even dares to do that, that he will launch a campaign to call for the outright departure of President Paul Biya. Maurice Kamto, remember, he was arrested and he was in jail since 2018. Is it after leading a protest, to protest against those shambolic elections that took place, and he was released during that national dialogue. On the last day of the dialogue, that is when Maurice Kamto was released. Even as the leader of opposition in Cameroon, he was not part of the national dialogue. Forget even the Anglophones. This is the leader of opposition, the official leader of the opposition in Cameroon. And while this national dialogue was taking place to try and find healing and a unified Cameroon, the leader of opposition was a political prisoner. He was in prison at that time, so he was not able to be part of this, national dialogue, as President Paul Biya called them. And that's what I'm saying. There was nothing there. President Paul Biya was having conversations with himself, because the people that were under him, his foot soldiers and all that, they were the ones who really formed a huge part of, the people who attended that dialogue. So that was not meant to solve anything. And remember, when this dialogue was convened, they already had a point, things that they thought should be addressed, and how, and there was a guided way in which participants were supposed to talk and approach the matters. So it was not an open, place where the people who are having a problem with the government, be it the Anglophones or any opposition there in Cameroon, and any other person would come out and say, okay, so this is where we see there's a problem, and perhaps this is how we propose. If we could go about it, then we could find a solution. that could, a permanent solution. So there was not that opportunity because it was already guided, and President Paul Biya and his government had already decided which way, those conversations were going to take place. All right. So now we see here Maurice Kamto now calling the official leader of opposition, then Cameroon, calling for this campaign. It's saying that he will call for protest, I guess. Those landing him in jail, I don't know, because the freedom of even speech there is not really guaranteed in Cameroon. So I think he has all right. Let's see how that will go. But I doubt these prerequisites and these things he's demanding for President Paul Biya to do before elections are held. I don't think Paul Biya has even paid any attention to any of this. He's saying, can we please address this issue with the Anglophones? This problem, the latest one, has persisted for over 4 years. The children of that part of the country do not go to schools. If the schools are not banned or their homes are not banned, they're somewhere in the bushes, or they're somewhere trying to find refuge near Nigeria, somewhere there, and Boko Haram is also busy there killing and maiming them. So it has become very difficult for these people there. So Maurice Kamto is saying, can we look at this crisis that now has brought in a lot of humanitarian crisis? Can we address that? This has persisted for the last over 4 years. Can we address that first before we go into another election? And also, can we address the issue of electoral reform? I think that is just a dead end. I doubt President Paul Biya will be interested into seeking to find a solution for any of this, because remember last time, even during that election, the Anglophones, just like Biafrans, have been calling for a secession. And, the issue of secession, that is just one thing that the government side then Cameroon said, if you're coming to this table and if you're attending this national dialogue, then you should not even utter the word secession. That is not even part of anything that we are even willing or to even listen or address or even talk about or even discuss. So that was that. So let me see if at all the president and the government of Paul Biya will actually pay attention to any of these demands by the official opposition leader there in Cameroon, Professor Maurice Kamto, who was just released from jail, was it last year, as I said there, during the last day of that shambolic national dialogue that was condemned with anybody out there, the international community, the people who give aid to Cameroon. They all came out and said, come on now, President Paul Biya, can you get serious if at all you really mean that you want to solve this crisis between the government of Cameroon and the Anglophones? Then you have to create a real national dialogue, and not that what you did there. All right, very well. So, all right, this thing that happened in Biafra, of course, has refused to go away, the killings that happened there. And now these new allegations that are coming up, I don't know, our viewers who are watching right now, and what happened there in Biafra on Sunday. In Nigeria on Sunday, where some members of the indigenous people of Biafra had convened a peaceful meeting there, and the security officials in Nigeria descended on them, and 21 people of the Igbo youth were killed, and 2 police officers were also killed. But now the information that is emerging is that these 2 police officers that were killed were not only police officers, but also were Igbo. So that's the reason why they were killed. So they're saying because the Igbo youth had convened a meeting, there was no any kind of weapon that they were found with. They're just convening a peaceful meeting, whatever it is they're discussing, that the government did not agree with. So, there has been a lot of condemnation from across board. And they're saying, well, you should have dispersed them. Like, police are trained in ways you can disperse a crowd or an illegal meeting, if that is what you want to call it, without necessarily claiming any lives or without necessarily killing anybody or harming anybody. You can use tear gas. You can, there are several means and ways you can do to disperse any meeting or a crowd that is meeting that you feel is out of line with whatever it is that the laws are in different countries and whatnot. So the police descended on these young people who were meeting, the youth there, the Biafrans who were meeting, and they killed 21 of them, and I think over 40 right now. I don't know if they've been released. The last I checked, and we were talking about this story, about 40 of them had been, arrested by the police, and 2 officers were also killed. So now what is emerging is that these 2 officers were killed by their colleagues, because according to the Alaibo Development Foundation, ADF, on Wednesday, when it petitioned international communities to wade into the gruesome murder of the over 21 members of the indigenous people there of Biafra, it said that the emerging theory that they were gunned down, those 2 police officers, by their colleagues for the purposes of covering up the cold-blooded atrocity which they may have vehemently opposed, should not be discounted. So those are very serious allegations, and I think, I don't know what President Biafra, what President Buhari has said so far. Has he come out to address this matter? Has he been able to come out and speak to the people, even who lost their loved ones senselessly like this? And should these allegations be true, then I think that is very dangerous. That, the 2 police officers who died during this mayhem that happened there on Sunday were actually targeted by their own colleagues in the security forces. I think that is quite serious, and I think the government of Nigeria should come out and address this matter as quick as possible. And so we see the Alaibo Development Foundation, Alaibo, is it? Alaibo, on Wednesday, saying that the international community should come in and address these matters, because this is unbecoming and unfortunate. And in one of their statements there, they are saying that ADF believes, that group believes that this brutal massacre of unarmed and defenseless citizens who were meeting in an open space to discuss their affairs is the height of political impunity and arbitrariness of the part of the security agencies. We totally agree with the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 13, Dan Malan Mohammed, who described the assault on IPOB members of the security agents as unbecoming and unfortunate. So even one of the officials there, the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 13, I don't know how that works there, came out and said, if you were to disperse people meeting there, you don't really have to use unnecessary force that will resort to 23 people dying, inclusive of the 2 police officers there that were murdered. You could use other ways to disperse a crowd, to disperse a meeting, there's several means and ways that the police officers, they are taught. But when you look at what happened and the events that followed, these perhaps police officers who came there with a certain agenda, and agenda was not to disperse the meeting, agenda was not to just, to find out what was happening. The agenda was to literally take lives, and that is what you do. Because you cannot tell me that 21 people died because it was an accident. You cannot tell me 21 people died and you don't even find this group of, they're not even armed. How does 21 plus 2 officers die? And then on top of that, these allegations that now we're hearing that even the 2 police officers that were murdered were actually murdered by their own colleagues, because these 2 officers were also they were Igbos, and so these the rest of the police officers, who are mainly Hausa and Fulani, felt that maybe their colleagues were stopping them, or were questioning why they were even using so much force, or why they were killing, and so they decided they will murder their colleagues and cover up the cold-blooded atrocities. This is ridiculous. This should be condemned. I don't know what ECOWAS has said there, because Nigeria is a member of ECOWAS. I don't know what ECOWAS have said in regards to these, killings that happened there, because this should be condemned. I don't care what these people were standing for. But you don't do that. You don't do that. And there are ways you can disperse. There's ways that you're taught as security agents if you've gone through a whole training. There are things you're taught there in these schools that will ensure, as much as you're trying to de-escalate a situation, but you do it with the utmost, with the utmost concern that you're not able to harm. You'd rather arrest or retain or something, but you use means and ways that at the end of the day will not harm the person that you're trying to bring to book. But in this case, you end up killing 21 people plus 2 police officers who now, according to the new theories and allegations, they are also believed to be Biafrans, and the rest of their colleagues who are mostly House and Fulanis, they decided to kill them to cover up. I think this is something that ECOWAS needs to deal with and needs to respond. I don't know if they've said anything yet. I didn't check, so I don't want to say they've not said, but I think if they did, then that is something we would be reading out there. So I don't think ECOWAS has really responded to this matter. This is of grave concern. So now, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, has condoled with the families of members killed during Sunday's clash with security operatives in Emene, Enugu State, insisting that the ugly incident would not dampen the struggle for restoration of Biafra. So it is things like this that make people very resolute. It is things like this that harden people. And now you are creating more martyrs because they're saying, if you continue doing this, we are already feeling as if the government is, it's just kneeling on our necks. We can't breathe in our own country, and you're trying to get off, but you not allow us, and then you continue killing our young people. These are things that radicalize, people. And they were having a peaceful meeting. There were no chaos. There were no any kinds of weapon that was found with them. But next time, who knows what can happen? Because you keep pushing people. At some point, they can decide, okay, we are trying to come at peace. We are trying to protest so that you can hear what it is that you're trying to say. We're trying to raise concern about some things that we would like to see change. And we've been doing it in a way that is perhaps consistent with the law, that allows for freedom of demonstration and freedom of speech and all that. And then you've been met with unnecessary force, even, murder. So next time, what do you think will happen? A lot of people, young people, might be, you are creating something that President Buhari, you might not be able to handle in the next few years. So I think the government of Nigeria, in as much as it's not agreeing with what the Biafrans are agitating for, but they should adopt a different strategy. The more you continue on harming people, the more you continue on stifling even the space for freedom of expression, then you are creating people that will be willing to do anything to get their freedom. And you're creating martyrs, and you're creating people who will even be willing to lay their lives for the sake of the cause that they believe in. So you're radicalizing more young, even people there from Biafra, who will sit and say, wait a minute, so why was my brother killed? He was only in a meeting, and he was not even carrying any kind of weapon. So why was my friend killed? And so things like this only work to even create more urge for the people who support a certain cause to now continue. They become very resolute in their decision on what they want to achieve, and now it's not stopping them. And as you see there, the leader of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, came out and said, this will not dampen our struggle for the restoration of Biafra. And in a statement he personally signed and made available to the Guardian, he said that the burden of restoring Biafra was a Herculean task that crystallizes in a constant danger of being killed by the federal controlled security forces. Kanu said the security forces had successfully cowed elected and non-elected leaders. And what I don't really understand there is that even for the Nigerians who might not be agreeing with the secession agitations by Biafrans, but just even from a human level perspective, these are things that don't think because it's people from the other side, then that is not our problem. And I think that is what you call it, Sawore was trying to say when he was wearing that T-shirt, hashtag "We are all Biafrans," that got him arrested there when he was coming from Spain in Lagos, Nigeria, sometimes back last year. You know, you cannot be quiet as much as you don't agree with what they're agitating for. But, you know, the freedoms there in Nigeria provides for, you know, a freedom of speech, just basic human, you know, freedoms there. So it's quite interesting, and to know that this is something that is not even being discussed there in Parliament to find and seek. Okay, so what are these young people? Why were they meeting? What do they want? How can we possibly, even if not agreeing with whatever it is that they're saying, but how can we possibly address some of the things that they're bringing out in terms of marginalization and things like this? You know, and we start looking at it in a critical way, because so that we're able to move forward even as a nation. But you know, the manner in which the Nigerian government has been handling this matter is just making things worse on its part, because it's only you know, forcing and also just making you know, the Biafrans really want for this secession even more than before. So it's quite interesting there, the events that happened, and now learning that it is, you know, the possibilities that the two soldiers that died were actually murdered by their colleagues because the two soldiers perhaps were from Igbo, or were trying to talk them out of, you know, killing these innocent people. I mean, that is just worrying. And if the army and the police officials and the security forces are the ones who are now, you know, even perpetrating violence against themselves, then that is a cause to worry. And this comes in a heel of a very insecure Nigeria generally, because of the threat of Boko Haram that we keep talking about here every day, that President Buhari has refused to address. And now it is a problem. And this ECOWAS, the manner in which it chooses to address these issues that happen in West Africa is just amazing. And it amazes me because, remember, even in Mali right now, of course, ECOWAS has sent their former president of Nigeria, President Jonathan Goodluck, to be the mediator and seek a way forward for Malians there, because right now the junta, the army officials there have said, you know, we need about 3 years for us to sort out the foundations of the state of Mali. We were talking about that the other time we were having this show. And so, you know, ECOWAS told them through former president of Nigeria, Jonathan Goodluck, that you have about a year tops. If you stay more than a year, you know, then it's going to be a problem. As we speak right now, Mali has been removed from ECOWAS, and also Mali has been removed from African Union. You know, if you cannot be a member of African Union, if you're being led by the military, and the junta there have said we need more time to stay in power, and we need more time to fix the bad foundations of the Mali as a country. I don't know how they're planning to do that, and I'll repeat what I said here the other time, that the army staying even longer as at the helm of leadership there in the country, I think is just a bad idea. So they had promised that after removing President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, that they will necessitate the formation of a civilian government as soon as possible. As soon as possible cannot be 3 years. And ECOWAS has failed to put pressure and the military there, so that they're able to relinquish power quickly and have the Malians vote or choose, you know, their next leader or whatever it is. And remember, one of the key things there that ECOWAS, you know, was suggesting that really got the people of Mali upset, that perhaps gave the military there even an upper hand. They were demanding that President Boubacar Keïta be reinstated back as the president. And Malians said, no. So they went out in the streets again to protest last Friday, and after they did that, the army thought, you know what, now we have them in our pockets. I think now they will support us. But I don't think Malians would support a 3-year rule there by the army. I don't think it's a good idea, as you never know, what will happen. And perhaps there's a section of army that is not even happy that that could happen. So we might see another bloody civil war break out there in Mali. So I'm very nervous for Mali right now. When President Boubacar Keïta was removed from power in a peaceful, bloodless coup, well, that was relatively fine because nobody died. But now if this army continues, because I can guarantee you not all of them even agreed. We still have a few loyalists there of former President Keïta. So if this junta keeps going and doing what they're doing and going the way they are, then you never know. A section in the military there might say, you know what, whatever may, we are also going to defend the integrity of this country. And we also have ideas on how we want Mali, to be led, and it's not by your side of the divide. So that might plunge another country into chaos. That we don't need another crisis in Africa, for heaven's sakes. Like, we have enough. Can we solve the problem in Biafra? Can we solve the problem in the Anglophone region there in Cameroon? Can we solve the problem in South Sudan? Can we solve the problem in Zimbabwe right now, before we create other unnecessary problems there that we are seeing? So ECOWAS, the manner in which it has been showing leadership in the West African states is just very wanting. Last year they came out and said, we are going to have one currency and we'll call it ECO, and we sat there and I said, okay, it was supposed to start being into effect this year. That hasn't happened. So that tells you ECOWAS is failing as the leading and the block there in the West African states, and perhaps the West African states, it's about time that you considered perhaps reviewing the manner in which ECOWAS even works there in West Africa, because we see even the issue of what happened there in Nigeria when those Biafrans were murdered. I was expecting, that ECOWAS will come out and issue a statement, will come out and condemn, the killings of these innocent people. But ECOWAS has not come out. That is the essence of why we have these regional blocs. And then I was what happened in Mali. Protests continued over a period of time, and it was over this side of the world, we were worried and saying, this is culminating into something that may get completely out of hand. And, ECOWAS was very quiet. I don't know how it's formed on what, or what is the mandate there. But I think they should, as a body, they should be responsible and point out things that are not going on very well in that side of the world. But ECOWAS has failed to address some of the atrocities that are happening in West Africa. The insecurity, every time they meet, I think it's just a formality, because they meet and nothing really happens. Boko Haram has become a thorn in the flesh, and the people from the Sahel region are really suffering. And yet ECOWAS has been in the forefront of finding a solution that, has never really come into effect. So I don't know. I'm not sure. So, all right. Okay, so let me just read a few of your, thank you for writing. So let me just read a few of your messages. Kangot, you're saying good morning, you're watching from Buffalo in New York, in the United States. Thank you so much. And Omoy Tosi, you're saying good morning from Queens, New York. A very good morning to you. It's about what? It's about 3:48 p.m. here in Nairobi, East Africa. I know it's an hour back in Central and West Africa there. And thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. Omoy Tosi, thank you so much. Obai Clever de Zulu, you're saying Biafra must come. Paul Christopher, you're saying Biafra is the only way out and peace of Africa in general. Chiboze, you're saying Nigeria is doomed and headed to the dustbin of history. Okay, Dominic Nwandu, a very good afternoon to you and good day to you too. And thank you so much. Dominic Nwandu is one of our top fans here. He never misses any of these shows. And the rest of you too, I appreciate your time this afternoon. And who else? Timothy Chidali, you're saying Patchland Africa TV we the people of Biafra really appreciate. Thank you. I mean, we're just stating the things as they are, because what happened there, I don't care whether the people believe on what you're agitating for or not. But I think from a human perspective, from a human level, I think this incident should have, elicited some kind of reaction, even from the rest of Nigerians who are living with insecurities every day, who are living with a leadership that is incompetent, is not protecting them, is not serving them. And when an injustice is happening in one part of the world or the country or a place, and you feel you're safe because you're on the other part, I think that is very dangerous, and that we should just speak out, whether I agree with you or not. But I think from just even a human point of view, to see that the rest of Nigeria is just quiet when 21 very innocent lives are being taken, I think is just out of order. And also to even know that from what we're hearing now, that the security agents there are the ones who could possibly have murdered their colleagues who also they perceived as being the Igbos, or I think it's just ridiculous there. And this is something that even the security agencies there in Nigeria should investigate and find out what really happened there. Malotti, Austin Victor, you're saying Biafra light, truth, equality and equity. James Odina Kachi, you're saying all ECOWAS want is war. Let's talk about ECOWAS and how incompetent this body is there in West Africa. ECOWAS, every time I read from ECOWAS, I think even a lot of their meetings there is just a formality. ECOWAS has not been able to effectively address a lot of things that happen in West Africa. And Ugbo, Mande Kanu, you're saying they can't because they have been bribed. They are all a bunch of compromised. Who are those shenanigans? Emmanuel Malual, very nice to see you this afternoon. Good afternoon to you. I don't know if I had some news there from South Sudan. This is one of our good viewers from South Sudan there, Emmanuel. I haven't seen you in a while. I trust that you're fine. The last I checked, I think the bodyguards of Vice President, what is his name? Yagi or who? Please remind me. 6 of them were murdered, I think. So also South Sudan is just having its own problems there. Yes. Let me just read a few of your comments before I call it a day. And Emmanuel, you're saying the coup in Mali, Miriam, shows how African leaders and ECOWAS failed to condemn. And now ECOWAS, I remember initially it was very reluctant to come in and find a solution in what was happening there in Mali. And then they wait until the president is, they came in when it was a bit too late. And I think the protest had taken another turn that it was very difficult to come back from. And so they came in led by former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan there. And they failed to convince, the people to stop with the agitation. So after the president was removed in a coup, ECOWAS comes out and said, okay, now we have removed Mali from ECOWAS. And then they demanded for reinstatement of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. You're going to force a leader to people who don't want that leader. Somalians took again to the streets last Friday and said, no, we don't want him. Please, you can keep him. You can take him to Nigeria, you can take him to Niger, you can take him to any other country. We don't want him. Yeah, so they went there, and when they protested against that idea by ECOWAS, now that is where the army got an idea that, perhaps we could stay here longer because the people seems to be they prefer us instead of the former leader, which I think is a bad idea. The army should not overstay their calm. They removed President Boubacar Keïta, who they were saying they were serving, the nation and the people, and they were protecting the sovereignty of the Republic of Mali. But that's it. They should leave and let the people of Mali elect the new leader as soon as possible. And now ECOWAS, the way it's responding, is such a toothless dog that even these threats that it is, threatening, the Mali military there, they don't even care. They don't even have respect for this body called ECOWAS. And ECOWAS has been very, very reluctant in even addressing these serious problems that have been plaguing, the Sahel region and West African states. And it is something that, because things happen in West Africa, and you would think ECOWAS will be the first people to make a statement outside the African Union. So you put ECOWAS and African Union together and it is a disaster, because also African Union, I've not seen them come out and condemn these killings that happened there. I've not seen them come out and try to have, hold, to account the government of Nigeria. They've been very quiet. And I know we've had these conversations over and over and over. African Union is just another, institution in this country that perhaps Africans could do away with, or maybe review its operations. They were reviewed in 2002, and we thought perhaps having departed from the initial Organization of African Unity, OAU, and we thought by changing their mandate and expanding their mandate, perhaps they'll be able to guide and lead this continent in a better way. But things haven't really changed. The forests have perhaps changed, but the monkeys still remain the same. And that is the dilemma that we find ourselves in here in the continent. And Ugo Noah, you're saying ECOWAS and AU are biased and fueling war in Africa. Biafra is calling for the referendum, not war, but Nigerian government are calling for war. War is inevitable if they failed to let go. Aye. All right, and Onyekachi, on your best. Another one of our viewers that I haven't seen in a very long time. But thank you so much for watching this afternoon. You're saying Nigeria is gone forever. And all right, thank you so much, Frank Williams Anthony. You're saying the Nigerian security agencies are killing Biafrans in Enugu. And Dundi Ume, you're saying you're grateful for Punchline crew, especially Dr. Matanga. All right, I'll pass your regards to him. He's not here this afternoon, but I'm sure he's watching from somewhere. Romitex Iyogwe, you're saying God bless you. God bless you too, and thank you so much for watching. Uche Konko, you're saying thank you, Punchline, for being truthful. All right, we Biafrans, we always have a special place in our hearts. All right, we're just stating the obvious. All right, Emmanuel Malloy, you're saying ECOWAS is not independent organization; it's under influence of South Sudan. Sorry, what? What did you say? It's under influence of South Sudan. ECOWAS. That's a new one. I did not know that. Please explain how. Explain how, because last I checked, South Sudan was having its own problems there. And you're saying, yes, Miriam, insecurity is rampant in South Sudan despite the peace agreement between rebels and government, killing of bodyguards of Vice President James Wani Iga, and military barracks shooting that killed General and Ye Juba Road ambush, the 3 soldiers and injured dozens. I know I've been reading from what has been happening there in South Sudan. It is worrying, and that's why I said we have enough problems already in this continent. We already have too many fires to put off and very urgent situations that needs the attention of the African Union. I've not heard AU come out, even address the matter and the escalating tensions there, even in Libya. It's just one of those forgotten wars that we've normalized and thought, okay, it's just Libya. They're fighting after the uprising in 2011, and nobody's really talking about it, and nobody's trying to get a solution. African Union there. And now the current chair, President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, he came in with a list of things that he had said he wanted to do. And now he's way past his half-time, as the chair of African Union. And I can't even tell you one thing President Cyril Ramaphosa has been able to address effectively in this continent. So it's quite interesting there. And Dumbuyisi Ezioka, you're saying very. Too many varies. Useless ECOWAS. Look at Goodluck Jonathan. His house is burning. He left his house and went to another. His house is, I think you meant saying burning. He left his house and went to another somebody's house to quench. Right? Nonsense. Nonsense. All right. That is what you're saying there. All right. It's quite. I know, because even the presidents there, Nigeria is lucky it has their former presidents, a couple of them. Olusegun Obasanjo, I think sometimes back last year, wrote a scathing letter to President Muhammadu Buhari, and he beseeching him to address the runaway insecurity of the country. Well, I think that message might have come from one ear and just left with the other, because even after raising those concerns, nothing really changed. I mean, go Google that letter that former President Olusegun Obasanjo wrote to President Buhari about the insecurity and things that he feels are not going right in that country, that really was never addressed. And they still have a voice. I don't know if their voices still matters there in Nigeria, but I think what happened there should warrant them to come out, and speak and say the killings of these innocent people is unwarranted. However much we don't agree with their cause, however much we are not in support of it, but there are ways that the security officials that went to a whole training school for a couple of months or years, I don't know how long that takes over there in Nigeria, they're trained on how to de-escalate a situation, on how to disperse a crowd. Use tear gas then. I mean, use rubber bullets that will not harm anybody, but you use live bullets on people that are not even armed, and then you allegedly end up even killing your colleagues who might have been trying to stop you from those senseless killings. Somebody needs to ask questions, and ECOWAS will be this person, African Union would be this person, but apparently they're not doing their job very effectively. All right, so Ndubuiso Ezioka, you're saying African ECOWAS is a disappointment. All Africans, so ECOWAS is not for all of us. ECOWAS is for the West African states. All right, ECOWAS, the economic bloc of the West African states over there. So I think ECOWAS, the manner in which, one, it has been addressing the issue of insecurity in West Africa and the Sahel region is one thing. The manner in which it has been addressing the things, the killings that have been happening there, and the events, the political, chaos that some leaders have put their citizens through there in that bloc is also very wanting. They have to come out and address some of these things, and ECOWAS have failed in its mandate to do that. I don't know, perhaps I'll go look for ECOWAS charter and try to read through and understand what really is the core thing that ECOWAS is supposed to be doing outside of the economic bloc. What else is it mandated to do? How well is it supposed to be representing those countries there in West Africa? And I think it's failing, or somebody is just sleeping there on their job. So something also very interesting here that we have to talk about before I leave. Continue writing to me. I will read your comments very, very shortly. This matter in Ivory Coast, I think let's talk about it just a little bit before I leave. Continue writing to me. Let me know what you think about ECOWAS and AU and their failure to address some of the most pressing, and urgent issues here in the continent, and especially there in West Africa. Let's tell me what you think about it. And now in Ivory Coast, the Electoral Commission has decided that former President Laurent Gbagbo should not run again, and this has caused another upheaval, and I think has a potential of plunging that country into chaos. Fine, the Electoral Commission has said anybody who has faced charges, they cannot run in any elections in the country, but Laurent Gbagbo was not even convicted. The ICC let him go because they could not find sufficient, proof to pin him down. And also, I don't understand why Laurent Gbagbo was, by the way, coming back to run for presidency in Ivory Coast. If I were him, I would just take my retirement and rest there. Remember how Laurent Gbagbo was removed from power in 2010 when he removed after that disputed election that resulted into post-election violence. I don't know why Laurent Gbagbo will still be, insisting that he wants to run for the presidency, there in Ivory Coast. So now what is happening, as much as the Electoral Commission has disqualified him from running, his party and his supporters have said, no, you will have his name on that ballot. We want his name there. You will have to put it there. And so they've gone to challenge that move by the Electoral Commission there in Ivory Coast. And also in a twist of events, they're saying French President Emmanuel Macron has been urged to intervene on Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara's bid for a third term. So the former president who came after Gbagbo, after that disputed elections that plunged that country into a momentarily, crisis there, Ouattara is now insisting on running on an illegal third term. Look at that. So an illegal third term. And what is quite, worrying there from one of the opposition leaders, they're saying France had hailed Mr. Ouattara's initial announcement that he will not seek re-election. But they have been very quiet after the president accepted his party's nomination for a third term. So they're asking France, so what is the deal here? When Alassane Ouattara came out at the beginning of the year and they said, oh no, I'm not interested in running for another election. And then look at that. Laurent Gbagbo, the prime minister, mysteriously dies from some illness somewhere in France, and now Ouattara decides, okay, I'm looking around the party and the people and my supporters, and I don't see anybody else who can replace me. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run for a third illegal term as your president, whether you like it or not, against the constitution of the country. France, which had praised the initial move when he said he will not run early in the year. Now, after Ouattara announced that he's running for another illegal third term, France has gone very, very silent, and the silence is very loud. So now the opposition there in Ivory Coast is saying, France, tell us, what is the deal? Because when he said he will not run, you praised him. And now all of a sudden, he decides to run for an illegal third term. And France, you're very quiet. And you're usually very vocal on matters here in Ivory Coast. So what is happening? See, and this is also a situation that you would expect ECOWAS. The same way they condemned Gbagbo to leave. Remember in 2010, ECOWAS was very vocal, and AU apparently. So now Ouattara is running for another third election illegally against the constitution in the country. ECOWAS is silent. So now what ECOWAS is waiting to do is, after the country has been plunged into chaos, after the killings are happening, after there are protests all over the place, after the army is just doing, taking over, and all of that is happening there in Ivory Coast, that's when now ECOWAS will come in and send a mediator. That's when now AU will come in and try to mediate and find peace and all that. Why are they not speaking against this right now before the elections happen? And they know very well that it is illegal. Are those not the founding principles there in ECOWAS? What is happening? ECOWAS is not speaking, so they're waiting for another chaos. They can't even deal with the chaos that already exists in those West African, states. And this is another chaos that is on the offing here. And instead of being proactive and speaking and voicing their voices right now and their discontent right now, they're waiting until now the army decides to remove Ouattara. Maybe, I don't know if that will happen. And then they'll be coming in and saying, now you're sending a mediator. Why don't you send a mediator right now and tell Ouattara, what you're doing is not right. You have gone for 2 terms, each 5 years. That is according to the constitution of Ivory Coast. Can you now allow, for democracy? Can you now respect the rule of law in your own country? It is, organizations like this that continue to encourage impunity, because when there's a constitutional coup and you don't even talk about it, you wait until chaos have spilled out, and that's when you're trying to come out and find solutions for it. I think that is very hypocritical of ECOWAS. That is just out of order. And maybe the citizens of this country, you should start demanding more, from ECOWAS, because remember, ECOWAS is operating with your taxes now. Yeah, the taxes that you're paying. That is what is running ECOWAS there. So they're waiting until Ivory Coast, plunges into chaos. And now they'll start sending President Jonathan Goodluck. They'll start sending other leaders, from the continent and other people to go find a solution, while they have an opportunity right now to condemn President Ouattara for going for an illegal third term. They have an opportunity right now to stop a possible bloodshed. And France, that has been very vocal in the past, France is very quiet. So would you say that perhaps France is supporting the illegal third term of, President Ouattara? President Macron, you should come out and please clarify that for us. Thank you so much. I'll see you here tomorrow. My time is up. I'm 8 minutes past my time. It was great. So I will see you tomorrow, okay? You'll make a date? Very well. Then I'll see you tomorrow at same time. Thank you so much. Keep writing to us. And if there's anything that you feel we've not talked about, please share. And we shall talk about it tomorrow, God willing. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.